There is a line that was written thousands of years ago, and when you hear it, something inside you will break open. The line is this: they tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. Now. Most people hear that and feel inspired for about 30 seconds. They nod, they screenshot it, they post it on their story, and then they go back to living the exact same way they were living before they heard it. But you are not most people. You are here, at this hour, watching this. And there is a reason for that. The reason is simple. Someone tried to bury you, maybe not with dirt, but with silence, with disrespect, with betrayal, with words that were designed to make you feel small, with actions that were designed to make you feel invisible, with a slow, patient, deliberate campaign to convince you that you are less than what you are. And it almost worked. Almost. Because here you are. Not buried. Not gone. Not erased. Here. Breathing. Watching. Listening. Alive. And for the next 80 minutes, I'm going to show you something that no one has ever shown you before. I'm going to show you what you actually are. Not who they said you are. Not who your doubts told you you are. Not who the worst moments of your life tried to convince you that you are. What you actually are. And I promise you, by the time this video ends, you will not be the same person who pressed play. That person will be gone. And someone else, someone you have been waiting your entire life to meet, will be standing in his place. Let us begin. Before I tell you what you are, I need to tell you what happened to you. Because most of you have never had anyone name it. You have felt it. You have lived it. You have carried it. But no one has ever sat across from you and said, this is what happened, and this is why it happened, and no, it wasn't your fault. So let me be that person. Here is what happened. You were born with something rare, something that most people do not have, something that cannot be taught or bought or faked. You were born with depth. You feel things that other people do not feel. You notice things that other people do not notice. When someone is in pain, you do not just see it, you absorb it. When someone is lying, you do not just suspect it, you know it. When something is wrong in a room full of people pretending everything is fine, you are the one whose chest tightens because your body registers truth faster than your mind can process it. That is depth, and depth is a gift. But no one told you it was a gift. No one told you that feeling everything so intensely was a superpower. No one told you that your sensitivity was the rarest form of intelligence. Instead, they told you to toughen up. They told you to stop being so emotional. They told you to stop overthinking. They told you that the world is not that deep and you need to lighten up and just let things go. And you tried. God, you tried. You tried to feel less. You tried to care less. You tried to be the easygoing one, the low-maintenance one, the one who does not need much, the one who is fine. Always fine. But you were never fine. You were drowning in a room full of people who could not see water. And the cruelest part, the people who told you to stop feeling so much were the same people who came to you every time they needed to feel understood. They called you when they were hurting. They leaned on you when they were breaking. They poured their pain into you because they knew that you were the only person who could hold it without judging them. They used your depth when it served them, and they punished your depth when it inconvenienced them. Read that again in your mind, because that is the sentence that explains your entire life. They used your depth when it served them, and they punished your depth when it inconvenienced them. That is not love. That is not friendship. That is not family. That is extraction. And you were the mine. Now, I'm going to tell you something that might make you angry. and I need you to stay with me when the anger comes. Do not turn this video off. Do not click away. The anger is important. The anger is fuel, and we are going to use every drop of it. Here it is. You let them do it. Not because you were weak, not because you were stupid, not because you did not know what was happening. You let them do it because you love them. And love, when it is given to the wrong people, is the most destructive force in the universe. More destructive than hatred, more destructive than violence, more destructive than any weapon ever built. Because hatred keeps you alert. Hatred keeps your walls up. Hatred keeps you watching for the next attack. But love? Love opens every door. Love lowers every wall. Love hands the keys to someone and trusts them not to burn the house down. And they burned it down. Not all at once. That would have been too obvious. You would have seen the fire and run. No. They burned it slowly. 1 degree at a time. So gradually that by the time you smelled the smoke, you were already standing in ashes wondering how you got there. A comment here. A dismissal there. A promise broken so casually that questioning it would make you seem dramatic. A boundary crossed so gently that enforcing it would make you seem aggressive. A need ignored so consistently that eventually you stopped having needs at all, because needing things from people who refuse to provide them was just another form of pain you could not afford. And so you shrank. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, in ways no one noticed because they were not looking. You stopped sharing your opinions because the last time you did, someone made you feel stupid. You stopped asking for help because the last time you did, someone made you feel like a burden. You stopped setting boundaries because the last time you did, someone called you selfish. You stopped being yourself because every time you were fully yourself, someone found a reason to make you pay for it. And what was left? A performance. A version of you designed not to express who you are, but to avoid triggering who they are. You became a mirror, reflecting whatever the person in front of you needed to see. Agreeable when they needed agreement. Silent when they needed silence. Invisible when they needed space. Available when they needed a body to absorb their chaos. You lost yourself. Not in some dramatic cinematic moment. Not in a single event you can point to and say, that is when it happened. You lost yourself the way the ocean loses the shore, inch by inch, wave by wave, but slowly, that you did not notice until you looked up one day and realized you could not see land anymore. And that is where you have been, floating, in the middle of something vast and dark and featureless, not drowning exactly, but not swimming either, just existing, just surviving. Just waiting for something to change, without knowing what that something is. Until now. Because now I am going to tell you what Marcus Aurelius knew, what Epictetus knew, what Seneca knew, what every great Stoic philosopher understood about people like you. They knew that the people who are buried deepest are the ones who grow tallest. They knew that the people who carry the most pain are the ones who develop the most strength. They knew that depth, the very thing the world punished you for, is the raw material of greatness. And they knew something else, something that will change everything when you truly hear it. They knew that the burial was necessary, not deserved. Necessary. There is a difference, a massive difference. And most people confuse the two because it is easier to believe that suffering is punishment than to accept that suffering is preparation. But the Stoics never confused the two. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while dealing with plague, war, betrayal, and the death of almost every child he loved. And he wrote in his private journal, words never meant for anyone else to read. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Read that again. What stands in the way becomes the way. He was not being philosophical. He was not being poetic. He was reporting a fact he had tested against the worst circumstances a human being can face. And the fact held. The thing that is blocking you is not blocking you. It is building you. The pain they caused, the silence they weaponized, the love they wasted, the depth they exploited, the burial they attempted, all of it, every single moment of it, wasn't happening to you. It was happening for you. And I know that is hard to hear right now. I know that part of you wants to scream that is easy for you to say. You were not there. You do not know what it felt like. And you are right. I was not there. I do not know the specific weight of your specific pain. But I know this. Seeds do not grow in sunlight. Seeds grow in dirt, in darkness, underground, where no one can see them, where no one believes anything is happening. Climb where the surface looks empty and barren and dead. But underneath something extraordinary is happening. Roots are forming, silent and strong and invisible, pushing through resistance, finding water in places where water should not exist, building a foundation so deep and so unshakable that when the seed finally breaks through the surface, nothing on earth can pull it out. That is what is happening inside you right now. You do not see it yet. But I do. And by the end of this video, you will too. Now let me give you the tools. Not motivation, not inspiration, not pretty words that fade by tomorrow morning. Tools. Real ones. The ones that Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and Seneca actually used to survive impossible lives and emerge not just intact, but transformed. And the first tool is the most counterintuitive one. It is the tool of selective blindness. Epictetus, who was born a slave, who had his leg broken by his own master, who lived in a body that did not belong to him for decades, said something that most people completely misunderstand. He said, "Of things that exist, some are in our power, and some are not in our power. In our power are opinion, movement toward a thing, desire, aversion. Not in our power are body, property, reputation, political office." Now, most people hear that and think it means accept what you cannot change, and that is partially right. But that is not the real lesson. The real lesson is this: stop looking at what they did. Start looking at what you have. Your attention is the most valuable resource you possess. More valuable than money. More valuable than time. Because attention is what you do with your time. And wherever your attention goes, your energy follows. And wherever your energy goes, your life follows. Right now, your attention is behind you. It is on the people who hurt you. It is on the moments that broke you. It is on the words they said that still echo in your head at 2 a.m. It is on the unfairness of what happened, the injustice, the fact that they got away with it, the fact that they are probably sleeping peacefully right now, while you are here trying to put yourself back together. Your attention is on them, and as long as your attention is on them, they still own you, not because they are powerful, but because you are giving them your power, voluntarily. Every time you replay the memory, every time you rehearse the argument, so every time you check their social media, or wonder if they think about you, or imagine what you would say if you saw them again. Every single one of those moments is a deposit of your energy into their account, and they are not even aware of it. They are living their lives. They moved on, and you are here funding a ghost. That stops now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you are ready. Now. Epictetus did not wait until his master freed him to become free. He became free in his mind, while his body was still in chains. He chose where his attention went. He chose which thoughts to feed and which to starve. He chose his internal experience, regardless of his external circumstances. And that choice, that single choice, made him the most free man in Rome, while technically being its least free person. You are not in chains. Your body belongs to you. Your time belongs to you. Your life belongs to you. And yet you are less free than Epictetus was as a slave, because your attention is chained to people who are not even in the room. Break the chain. Not by forgiving them. Forgiveness is a process, and it takes time, and I am not going to rush you. Break the chain by redirecting your attention. Deliberately. Forcefully. Every time your mind drifts to them, catch it. Name it. Say to yourself, this thought is not serving the person I am becoming. And then redirect, not to positivity, not to affirmations, not to some imagined future where everything is perfect. Redirect to the next action, the immediate next thing you can do to build the life you actually want. What can you do in the next 15 minutes that moves you forward? Do that. What can you learn in the next hour that makes you sharper? Learn that. What can you create today that did not exist yesterday? Create that. Action is the antidote to rumination. Your mind cannot replay the past and build the future at the same time. It is one or the other. And every moment you spend building is a moment stolen back from the people who tried to bury you. They wanted you to stay underground, replaying, recycling, reliving. Building is how you break the surface. Now, the second tool. This one comes from Seneca, and it is brutal. Seneca was not a gentle philosopher. He was not a soft-spoken academic, sitting in a library, theorizing about life from a position of comfort. Seneca was exiled. He was sent to Corsica, a desolate island, by an emperor who wanted him gone. He lost his home, his reputation, his career, or his freedom. Everything he had built over decades was taken from him in a single political decision. And from that island, from that place of absolute loss, he wrote letters that are still read 2,000 years later because they contain a truth so sharp it cuts through every generation. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements, if it were all well invested." And then he wrote something even more piercing. We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. Now, here is why this is brutal, because it turns the spotlight on you, not on them, not on what was done to you, not on the injustice, or the unfairness, or the cruelty. On you. And it asks a question that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. What are you doing with the time you have left? Not the time that was wasted. That is gone. Not the years you spent being someone else's emotional support system. Gone. Not the energy you poured into people who gave nothing back. Gone. What are you doing with what remains? Because here is the reality that Seneca saw so clearly. You could live another 50 years, or 40, or 30, or 10. And every single day of those remaining years you have a choice. You can spend it looking backward, reviewing the damage, cataloging the losses, building a case against the people who wronged you, perfecting the prosecution of a trial that will never take place in any courtroom except the one inside your head. Or you can spend it building the body that carries you through the next chapter, building the mind that cannot be manipulated by the next person who tries, building the financial foundation that makes you impossible to trap, building the emotional discipline that turns you from a puppet into a force. The choice is yours, and I want you to understand something about that choice, It is not a one-time decision. You do not wake up one morning and decide, I choose building, and then coast for the rest of your life. It is a daily decision, an hourly decision, a minute-by-minute decision. Every time your phone buzzes and light is a distraction, you choose. Every time your mind drifts to the past, you choose. Every time someone offers you comfort that keeps you small versus challenge that makes you grow, you choose. Seneca chose building, from an island, in exile, with nothing. What is your excuse? I am not asking that to be cruel. I am asking because the answer matters. If your excuse is I am too broken, Seneca was more broken. He watched friends betray him and an empire abandon him. If your excuse is I do not have resources, Epictetus had nothing. He was literally property. If your excuse is I am too old, Marcus Aurelius began writing his meditations in his 50s during a military campaign while his body was failing him. If your excuse is I am too young, the Stoics would say, good. You have time that they did not. Use it. There is no valid excuse. There is only the choice, build or decay. Those are the options. There is no standing still. There is no maintaining. You are either growing or you are dying. And growth requires discomfort. It requires doing the things you do not want to do on the days you do not want to do them, in the moments when every fiber of your being is screaming, this is too hard. Go back to who you were. At least that was familiar. Familiar is not the same as good. Your old life was familiar. The disrespect was familiar. The pattern of giving and receiving nothing was familiar. The numbness was familiar. And familiar almost killed you. So choose unfamiliar. Choose the discomfort of the gym when your body wants to stay in bed. Choose the discomfort of silence when your mouth wants to explain. Choose the discomfort of saving money when your impulse wants to spend. Choose the discomfort of being alone when your loneliness wants to reach for anyone who will answer. Discomfort is the compass. If it is uncomfortable, it is probably the right direction. If it is easy, it is probably the direction that leads back to who you were. Now the third tool, this one is mine, not from Marcus Aurelius, not from Epictetus, not from Seneca, from me to you. And it is the simplest tool of all. Stop telling people what you are going to do. Stop it. The old you announced every intention, every plan, every goal, every resolution. You told people you were going to start working out, and they said good for you, and you felt a small burst of satisfaction, and then you did not go to the gym because the announcement itself gave you the emotional reward that the action was supposed to provide. Onta, you told people you were going to save money, and they said, that is smart, and you felt responsible. And then you spent the money because telling people about the plan felt productive, even though it accomplished nothing. You told people you were changing, you were growing, you were done tolerating disrespect. And they nodded, and smiled, and waited, because they had heard it before, and they knew that the version of you who announces change is not the version who achieves it. The version who achieves it says nothing. He disappears for a while. He goes quiet. People wonder where he went. People notice the absence, but not the work. And then one day, he shows up. Different. Not because he told anyone he was changing, but because the change is visible, undeniable, written on his body, written in his silence, and written in the way he carries himself. And people do not know what to say, because announcements can be dismissed, but results cannot. So from this moment forward, you tell no one what you are building. Not your friends, not your family, not the person you are dating, not the person you want to date. No one. You build in silence. You suffer in silence. You grow in silence. You let the results make the noise. And when they finally see what you have become, when they finally notice that the person they tried to bury is now standing taller than anyone in the room, they will ask, "What happened to you?" And you will look at them with calm eyes, with a slight smile, with the quiet confidence of someone who has been through the fire and came out carrying the flames. And you will say, "Nothing happened to me. I happened to me." Anand, that is the most powerful sentence you will ever speak. Now let me go deeper, because we are not even close to done. Everything I have told you so far is the foundation, the dirt, the soil, the conditions necessary for growth. Now, I am going to talk about the growth itself. What happens when the seed actually breaks through? What the world looks like from the other side of transformation. What it feels like to wake up one morning and realize that you are not the same person who went to sleep. And I need to warn you about something first. The growth will be lonely. Not the kind of lonely where you have no one around you. You might have people around you the entire time. It is a different kind of lonely. The kind that comes when you are changing faster than the people around you can process. When your old friends still see the old you and treat you accordingly. When your family still talks to you like you are the person you were 5 years ago. When the world has not caught up to who you are becoming and you feel like you are living in a gap between two versions of yourself. One foot in the past, one foot in the future, and no ground beneath you in the present. That loneliness is real, and it is heavy, and no one warns you about it. But Marcus Aurelius warns you about it. He writes, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do." He is not saying stop caring about people. He is saying stop outsourcing your identity to people's perception of you. Because here is what happens when you grow. The people who loved the old, you will resist the new you. Not because they are evil, but because your growth is a mirror for their stagnation. When you change, you unintentionally highlight the fact that they have not. And that is uncomfortable for them. So they will try, consciously or unconsciously, to pull you back. They will say you have changed, and they will not mean it as a compliment. They will say, "I miss the old you." What they mean is I miss the version of you that I could predict and control. They will say you are being selfish. What they mean is you are no longer prioritizing my needs above your own, and I am not used to that. And when you hear these things, and you will hear them, you will be tempted to shrink back, to soften, to return to who you were just to restore the peace. Do not do it. The peace they want is not peace. It is your compliance, and compliance is not peace. Compliance is war fought inward, where every battle is against yourself, and every victory means a piece of you disappears. You have been compliant your entire life. And where did it get you? Here, watching a video about how to put yourself back together. Compliance did not protect you. Compliance fed you to the people who were hungry for someone who would not fight back. So fight. Not with fists, not with words, not with drama or confrontation or public declarations. Fight with discipline. Fight by waking up at the same time every day when your body begs for another hour. Fight by going to the gym when every excuse in your mind sounds perfectly reasonable. Fight by reading when scrolling is easier. Fight by saving money when spending feels like relief. Fight by staying silent when everyone around you is performing. See, fight by choosing yourself when you have spent your entire life choosing everyone else. That is the fight. The quiet war. The invisible battle that no one sees, and no one applauds, and no one posts about, and no one gives you credit for. But you You know every morning when you win the first battle of the day by getting out of bed when your mind tells you to stay down. You know every time you say no to something that the old you would have said yes to just to keep the peace. You know every time you sit in the discomfort of growth instead of retreating to the comfort of familiarity. You know, and that is enough. You do not need applause. You need evidence. Evidence that you are becoming someone new. And every disciplined action is a piece of evidence. Every boundary set is a piece of evidence. Every morning one is a piece of evidence. Stack the evidence. Day after day. Week after week. Month after month. Until the evidence is so overwhelming that even you cannot deny it. You are not who you were. You are who you are becoming. And who you are becoming terrifies them. Not because you are aggressive. Not because you are loud. Not because you are threatening. Because you are calm. And a calm person who was once broken is the most dangerous person alive. Because they have already survived the worst thing that ever happened to them. And if the worst thing could not stop them, nothing can. Marcus Aurelius writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wrote that while leading an army, while burying his children, while being poisoned by the people he trusted most, while his body deteriorated and his empire crumbled around him. And he still found strength, because the strength was never in the circumstances. The strength was in the choice to control what he could control and release what he could not. That is the Stoic secret. Not that life gets easier. It does not. That you get stronger. So strong that what used to destroy you becomes background noise. That what used to keep you up at night becomes something you handle before breakfast. That what used to feel like the end of the world becomes just another day. Not because you stopped feeling, but because you learned how to feel without being controlled by feeling. That is the difference between the old you and the new you. The old you felt everything and was destroyed by everything. The new you feels everything and is destroyed by nothing. Same depth, same sensitivity, same ability to feel what others cannot feel. But now there is a structure around it, a discipline, a framework, 4 walls and a foundation built from the philosophy of people who suffered more than you ever will and still chose to build rather than burn. And that brings me to the part of this video that will change the way you see yourself forever. Because everything I have said so far has been about what happened to you and what to do about it. Now I need to talk about who you actually are, not who they said you are, not who the pain convinced you that you are, not who the worst moments tried to define you as, who you actually are. And this is where Stoicism becomes something more than philosophy. This is where it becomes a mirror. A real one. Not the cracked mirror of other people's opinions. Not the distorted mirror of your own self-doubt. A clean mirror. A true one. And what it shows you is this. You are not fragile. You feel fragile. Because you have been treated as if you were fragile. Because people handled you carelessly. Because they dropped you and then blamed you for breaking. But you are not fragile. The fact that you are here proves it. A fragile person would not have survived what you survived. A fragile person would have stayed in the ashes. A fragile person would have accepted the burial as final. You did not. You searched. You questioned. You kept going. You found this video. Not by accident. By instinct. The instinct of something inside you that refuses to stay down no matter how many times it is pushed. That instinct has a name. The Stoics called it the ruling reason. The hegemonikon. The part of you that is you beneath the pain and the patterns and the performance. The core. The seed. the thing they tried to bury, and it is still alive. Right now, reading these words through your eyes, hearing them through your ears, feeling them in the center of your chest where something has been tightening for the past 40 minutes because this video is hitting a part of you that has not been touched in a very long time. That part is not broken. That part was never broken. That part is the only part of you that matters. And it has been waiting, patiently, quietly, through every bad relationship, through every thankless job, through every night spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is all there is. It has been waiting for you to stop listening to them and start listening to it. And what is it saying? It is saying, get up. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Not when the timing is right, or when you feel ready, or when the stars align. Now, get up. Not because the world owes you anything. It does not. Not because things will be easy from here. They will not. Get up because you are a seed. And seeds do not ask permission to grow. They do not wait for favorable conditions. They do not negotiate with the dirt. They push, blindly, stubbornly, against resistance, against gravity, against every force that says, stay down, it is safer here. The surface is not worth the struggle. They push, and they break through. And when they break through, the sunlight hits them for the first time. And everything makes sense. The darkness wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The weight was not oppression. It was resistance training. The loneliness wasn't abandonment. It was incubation. And you, standing in the light, looking down at the dirt that once held you, realize something that takes your breath away. You are not the same thing that was planted. You are something entirely new, something stronger, something deeper, something rooted so firmly that no wind, no storm, no person, no memory, no amount of pain can pull you out, because your roots go all the way down through the silence you mastered when they expected you to scream, down through the emotions you learned to feel without being consumed by, down through the money you saved when spending would have been easier, down through the mind you trained when distraction was the default, down through every dark night where you chose to endure rather than escape. Those are your roots, and nothing is deeper than roots built in darkness. So let me speak to the seed one final time, you who are watching this in the dark, in your room, on your phone, at an hour when the world is sleeping and you are still fighting. I see you. Not the performance, not the mask, not the version you show the world. You, the one who is tired but refuses to quit. The one who has been broken but refuses to stay broken. The one who has every reason to be bitter but still has a heart that wants to believe in something. I see you. And here is what I want you to know. The people who tried to bury you did you the greatest favor of your life. They didn't know it. They were not trying to help. They were trying to eliminate you, to neutralize you, to make you small enough that you would never outgrow them. But they made a miscalculation. They buried a seed. And seeds do not die in the dark. Seeds become what they were always meant to become. You are becoming what you were always meant to become. Not the kind one who got used. Not the quiet one who got overlooked. Not the deep one who got punished for feeling. Something else. Something that has all of those qualities. The kindness, the quiet, the depth. But now has something it never had before. Roots. Roots that go so deep they tap into something ancient. Something that Marcus Aurelius tapped into. Something that Epictetus tapped into. Something that Seneca tapped into. A source of strength that does not come from the world. It comes from within. And once you tap into it, once you feel it flowing through you, once you realize that the power was always there and you were simply too buried to access it, everything changes. Not the world. The world stays the same. The same cruelty, the same indifference, the same people doing the same things. You change. And when you change, your experience of the world changes. And when your experience changes, your actions change. And when your actions change, your results change. And when your results change, the people who tried to bury you look up and see something they cannot explain. A tree, standing where they were sure they left a grave. Tall, strong, silent, covered in golden light. Roots so deep, they crack the foundation of everything built on top of the burial site. And they will stare at that tree, and they will remember the seed they put in the ground. And they will not understand how this happened, but you will understand, because you lived it, every inch of it, the darkness and the pressure and the isolation and the slow, agonizing push toward the surface. You lived it. And now you are here, in the light, alive, growing, unbreakable, and you are only getting started. Seneca wrote his final truth near the end of his life, after exile, after loss, after watching everything he built be taken from him. He wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." You have spent your entire life thinking that the situation is too difficult, that the pain is too heavy, that the odds are too long, that you are too broken. But Seneca is telling you with his dying breath that you have it backward. It is not too difficult. You were just too afraid to start. So start. Not with a plan, not with a strategy, not with a 5-year vision and a morning routine and a list of habits. Start with one thing, one push, one root, 1 inch toward the surface. Today. Not the version of today that starts when you feel ready. The version of today that starts the moment this video ends. Close this video, put your phone down, and do one thing. 1 push-up, 1 page of a book, 1 honest conversation with yourself about what you actually want. 1 thing. That is all a seed needs to begin. 1 push against the dirt, and then another, and then another. And then one morning you will open your eyes and realize the dirt is gone. The sky is above you. The light is on your face. And the person who pressed play on this video 80 minutes ago is someone you can barely remember, because you are not him anymore. You are the tree, rooted, risen, real. And they tried to bury you, but they didn't know. They didn't know you were a seed. Now grow.